You could hear the milk float coming before it even appeared, the gentle jingle of glass bottles announcing its arrival. Through open windows, the neighbors' radios crackled faintly. A voice called, "Back by tea," as a boy in worn shoes disappeared down the lane, a football tucked under his arm. There were no smartphones, no timetables, just chalked pavements and an endless sky. This was 1960s Britain, a world where freedom thrived in backyards and happiness was simple and free. Life moved slower then, closer to people and place. These memories aren't just stories, they are echoes of a generation shaped by them. Today, we revisit 17 unforgettable moments of childhood in 1960s Britain, a time before Wi-Fi and instant gratification, when joy came in small, tangible ways. If this content speaks to you, don't let the story end here. Leave a comment, join the conversation, and help us keep these voices alive. Subscribe for more journeys through time, and together, let's ensure these cities are never forgotten. Without further ado, let's continue. Childhood then held a freedom almost impossible to imagine now. Children raced through alleyways, climbed trees, built dens from old planks, and returned home only when the streetlights flickered on. No one tracked their movements, and no screens interrupted their play. They returned with scraped knees, laughter catching their breath, and a simple sandwich waiting in the kitchen. Trust bound neighborhoods together, and every street corner could spark a secret adventure. Every patch of grass was a battlefield or a kingdom. Did you spend your days outside until dusk? Before television dominated living rooms, the radio was the center of family life. Families gathered around a single speaker to listen to dramas, quiz shows, and news that transported them to distant worlds. Faces were imagined, entire stories built from voices alone. Children learned to listen intently, to imagine, and to let sound fill their worlds. The radio became the rhythm of the home, accompanying tea time, homework, and quiet family rituals. That first television set was a marvel. Its fuzzy picture and small screen were enough to enchant any household. Coronations, cartoons, and late-night comedies were communal events. The entire street might crowd into one house just to watch together. Even when signals faltered, no one complained. It was the future flickering in your living room. Color wasn't necessary. The excitement, the laughter, and the shared awe were all the magic anyone needed. School lunches were simple but memorable. Steam-filled halls, trays stacked with mashed potatoes, cabbage, and pink custard, and hundreds of children queuing impatiently. Sometimes the chips were perfect, sometimes the pudding clung to the plate, but it didn't matter. You earned your meal, found your spot, and hoped the dinner lady would offer a second helping. The smell of boiled vegetables still brings back whispers, laughter, and scraped knees for those who remember. The hum of a scooter meant freedom. Teenagers zipped through narrow lanes, dressed in slick jackets and polished helmets, racing nowhere in particular but chasing the thrill of youth. Streets became runways for rebellion, each rev of the engine a bold statement. It was style, speed, and independence all at once, the very essence of adolescence made tangible. Posters on bedroom walls, records spinning endlessly, and endless debates over Beatles or Stones. The mania didn't stop at concerts. It lived in homes across Britain. Teens screamed into pillows, tried to emulate mop-top hairstyles, and felt each lyric as though it were written just for them. Music wasn't background noise. It was the soundtrack of growing up. Summer meant sand in shoes, rock candy stuck to fingers, and donkeys waiting patiently by the shore. Arcades blinked and buzzed with neon lights and coins, and hours passed trying to win a small prize. It wasn't about luxury. It was pure, sunburnt, sticky-fingered joy. Every child returned home with a souvenir, a memory, and a smile that lasted long after the holiday ended. Nighttime brought moments of awe. Pubs switched on coin-operated televisions, and streets fell silent as everyone watched history unfold. Fathers, young and old, might quietly shed tears into their pints. For a few minutes, time paused, the world shifted, and even without understanding the science, the spectacle felt monumental. Weekends meant cinema trips with velvet seats, sticky floors, and the smell of popcorn in the air. Children, coats oversized and pockets jingling with coins, immersed themselves in cowboys, space heroes, or monsters. For 2 hours, imagination reigned. The hush before the film began felt like a shared spell, binding strangers in a single experience of wonder. Mods could be spotted from afar: polished shoes, narrow ties, and perfectly styled hair. Scooters roared through city streets, accompanied by jazz and soul, a declaration of style and independence. Being a mod was a statement. We are the future. Rain or shine, their swagger and precision never faded. Did you ever embrace the mod look? Carnival season brought color and music to every town. Streamers waved in the wind, drums pounded, and the aroma of sizzling food filled the streets. Children danced, neighbors joined in, and even elderly men played dominoes on doorsteps. Imperfect but electric, it was a day when the streets pulsed with joy, and everyone belonged. Winter mornings demanded patience and effort. Cold floors, visible breath, and the constant clink of coal in the scuttle greeted the household. Fires had to be stoked before the day could begin, parents coaxing flames to life while children dressed nearby. Patience and routine intertwined with the warm glow, ash under fingernails, and the smell of soot becoming part of growing up. Even amid the 1960s swing, remnants of war persisted. Bombed-out lots became playgrounds, rubble serving as forts for hide-and-seek. Children rarely considered the history beneath their feet, yet it silently shaped their games and imagination. Shrapnel could still be found if you knew where to look. Toys like Meccano sets promised magic in the form of screws and metal strips. Children built cranes, cars, and towers, relying on patience and creativity rather than batteries or screens. Pieces might go missing, but the joy of creating something with your own hands never did. Sweet shops were kingdoms where a penny held immense power. Rows of glass jars, sherbet fountains, and gobstoppers waited to be chosen. Decisions took minutes, each coin spent with care. The smells, the crinkle of paper bags, and the thrill of choice made happiness tangible. Not every memory was quiet. Protests, civil rights marches, and anti-nuclear demonstrations shaped the streets. Mothers pushed strollers, students raised fists, and teenagers carried banners. Children saw that change was possible, that voices, no matter how young, mattered. Finally, riding the top deck of a bus at sunset was a private, shared experience. Seats vibrated under you, windows fogged from breath, and the world drifted by as papers were read and quiet conversations shared. You sometimes stayed on longer than necessary, savoring the fleeting peace of a world both public and personal. Growing up in 1960s, Britain wasn't about possessions. It was about feeling, imagination, and community. Handwritten notes, shared streets, and unstructured days created a childhood rich in ways today's world rarely understands. If even one memory brings a smile, it deserves to be remembered. The past is never gone, it waits to be retold. Kicking through piles of autumn leaves was more than play, it was a daily celebration of the season. Children competed to see who could make the loudest crunch or the highest leap, while the air smelled of damp earth and smoke from nearby chimneys. Each leaf pile was a temporary kingdom, built and destroyed within minutes, leaving behind laughter echoing through quiet streets. Street markets were alive with color and chatter. Stallholders called out their wares, fresh vegetables, baked goods, and sometimes exotic treats from distant lands. Children trailed behind parents, clutching coins, mesmerized by the variety of smells and textures. Every visit felt like a small adventure, a lesson in bargaining, curiosity, and community. On rainy days, puddles became miniature oceans. Boots splashed through water as friends raced to see who could make the biggest splash without slipping. Umbrellas twirled like magic wands, while water dripped from rooftops and ran along gutters. These small, wet adventures taught resilience, creativity, and the simple joy of turning inconvenience into fun. Corner shops were more than places to buy sweets, they were meeting points, rumor hubs, and tiny stages of social life. Familiar faces behind counters greeted every child by name. A single coin could secure a chocolate bar, a lollipop, and hours of storytelling and gossip shared in whispers before heading back into the street. Fireworks nights were electric. Children ran with sparklers waving through the dark, faces glowing, parents guiding from the sidelines. Rockets soared overhead, whistles screamed, and the air smelled of gunpowder and excitement. Every year, it was the same thrill, yet always new, a reminder that magic could be found in the smallest explosions of light. Evening walks revealed hidden worlds. Alleyways echoed with distant voices, back gardens held secret dens, and every lamppost cast long, mysterious shadows. Children learned to navigate these small neighborhoods independently, discovering courage, curiosity, and the thrill of the unseen that lurked just around the corner. Neighborhood shops offered more than groceries. They were a classroom in civics. From gossip to advice, from free samples to local news pinned on corkboards, children observed, learned, and grew aware of the network of adults that quietly maintained daily life. Baking at home was a shared ritual. Mothers, fathers, and children gathered flour, sugar, and eggs, measuring with care, learning patience, and savoring the reward of creating something together. The kitchen smelled of warmth and possibility, and small mistakes were lessons in resilience and improvisation. Saturday mornings had a rhythm all their own. The sound of the ice cream van jingling down the street signaled freedom. Children abandoned chores, homework, and breakfast in a rush, chasing the familiar melody with coins clutched tightly in small fists. The air smelled of sugar, summer grass, and possibility. Libraries were hushed sanctuaries. Rows of worn books, the smell of paper and ink, and the soft shuffle of pages offered escapes into worlds beyond imagination. Children and adults alike lingered over stories, whispered recommendations, and borrowed volumes that would return months later, sometimes dog-eared, sometimes lost in adventure. Telephone operators were once indispensable. Voices crackled through wires as operators connected calls manually, asking, "Number please." Every conversation was threaded through human hands, creating a sense of connection and patience that feels unimaginable today. Village fetes were community festivals that united generations. Stalls sold cakes, homemade jams, and raffles, while games of tug-of-war and sack races kept children laughing for hours. The scent of frying onions and sweet treats mingled in the air, and the sound of brass bands filled the village green with life. The corner newsagent was a gateway to the wider world. Newspapers, comics, and penny dreadfuls lined the shelves. Children lingered, flipping through pages, absorbing headlines, and imagining the lives of people far away. Every visit was a lesson in curiosity and a connection to a world beyond their street. Washing day was an event, not a chore. Clotheslines stretched across backyards, flapping in the wind as families gathered to hang laundry. Conversations flowed alongside damp sheets, and the smell of soap mingled with the fresh air, teaching lessons in community, patience, and daily rhythm. Summer evenings brought cricket in the parks. Leather balls flew across fields, bats swung with determination, and spectators clapped or groaned in equal measure. The game wasn't just about sport, it was a social hub, teaching teamwork, focus, and the joy of friendly competition. The post office was a bustling hub of both communication and gossip. Queues of neighbors exchanged news while collecting letters, parcels, and telegrams. Children learned patience, adults exchanged stories, and every visit reinforced the sense of a connected, living community. Fairs and traveling circuses brought magic to towns. The scent of popcorn, sawdust, and animal enclosures mingled with the sounds of laughter, music, and clowns' antics. For a few days, the ordinary world transformed into one of wonder, teaching children that imagination could fill any corner of reality. School chalkboards were canvases of creativity and discipline. Teachers' hands moved swiftly, writing lessons that would shape young minds. The smell of chalk dust, the scratch of pen on paper, and the collective effort of reciting tables, poems, and formulas were both rigorous and comforting, marking the heartbeat of daily education. If these memories moved you, don't let the story end here. Leave a comment, join the conversation, and help us keep these voices alive. Subscribe for more journeys through time, and together, let's ensure these cities are never forgotten. See you next time.